Hey, Chris Lipe here. A while back, I did a video on Anthony Kiedis, and the comments section blew up in part with requests for a John Frusciante video. And I have to confess, I hadn't listened to John's solo stuff much. Back in the day, I'd heard little smatterings of it here and there. And of course, I've always appreciated his background vocals with the Peppers. But as soon as those comments started to come in, I thought, yeah, I should probably do a video. And then I started going down this rabbit hole of all this incredibly diverse solo content. Thought, I can't just do one video. I'm going to have to do multiple videos. So I'm going to do one focused on background vocals in a little bit. But I wanted to dive in to a few of his solo tracks and dissect some of the amazing diversity that's happening with his voice. So we're going to be looking at some parts of tracks off of his Neandra Lades and Usually Just a T-Shirt album, which has so many quirky things that he's doing vocally. Sounds, some strange production sorts of things. And this will be a lot of fun. So, John Frusciante, strange diverse vocals. Here we go. Really quick, if you'd like more help going deeper with your own voice and unlocking all sorts of sounds you didn't really know you had, click the link below and join my free voice course. You'll get to see me and another student explore in way more detail the kinds of techniques and mindsets that go into doing things like John Frusciante's doing in these tracks. This first part is off of My Smile is a Rifle. Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. There's just some crazy stuff going on here. That sound that he gets is a combination of so you like the way we gauge. He's doing a combination of forming the vowel a little bit farther back. So you You've heard me talk about this in the context of other singers. Crow, where we're taking the resonance and we're putting it in the back of our throat. And we're intentionally making it nasal. But if you listen here again to the way he transitions this phrase, like the way we gauge. Pulling that resonance back, putting it through his nose, and then using a lot of compression on gauge. So this isn't gauge. He's holding the air back as he's bringing his resonance back. Gauge. So you like the way we gauge. Dynamic resonance, moving things around in a way that makes things way more compelling than simply this static way that he could if he would have started that line the same way he ended it. I also like here how he doesn't have this desire to be accurate. I'll come to you. There's not a need to hit certain pitches. This is more of a desperate cry put to music. And it makes it very, very interesting. This isn't slick production, stating the obvious here. And it's also not him trying to be a good singer. He's merely expressing himself. And the tools that he's developed with his voice being able to move his resonance around is allowing him to express himself in a very unique way. There's way more of that coming up here. So he starts with head voice stuff. Listen back here again. Again, moving that resonance around. Forward and backward, placing the energy in different parts of his vocal tract. He's probably not conscious. Okay, I got to move my resonance back. He's feeling this out. But in order for us to put some of this expressiveness into our own voice, we have to think this way. Then he transitions up into this whistle tone, which I have not developed whistle tone in my voice at all. But what's interesting, and I've heard a lot of other people talk about this, you push your head voice up until it sort of goes away into just air. And then you lean into that rasp. And I've heard people talk about how when you lean in the right way, you're able to get a whole other whistle register going. I haven't figured out that sensation. I wish that I could figure it out, and I'm continuing to experiment with it. But he's not hitting those high notes in head voice. That's absolutely whistle register. Next, let's study some resonant choices in the song Curtains off the same album.
You don't need it now. Your head's shaped like a cow.
You don't need it now. Same sort of placement that he was using on the last song, but he's a little bit more consistent here. You don't need, as he gets higher, he moves the resonance back and a bit more nasal. Need it now. This and adding lots of compression, lifting something heavy. This allows him to get that sort of thin mix. And you've heard me talk about this in crow and dying cat sounds. What's so neat about listening to what he's doing here is because he's not trying to be accurate, he's really doing a lot of the gateway sounds that I've talked about in other videos. Row, row, and then honing it not near as much as some of these other singers. Listen to what he's doing.
You don't need it now.
So now how he's teetering. You don't need it now. Really compelling.
Your head's shaped like a cow.
Right there. Shaped like a cow. Notice the previous phrase, he was using this dying cat resonance back. Really feeling it in the back of your tongue, soft palate area. It's not the same as swallowing a vowel. And then also unlocking nasal movement. nasal movement. Nasal resonance. Then here he goes into head voice. Just to create more diversity.
Need it now. Your head's shaped like a cow.
Shaped like a cow.
All is here.
Head voice.
The world's just a sphere, no bigger than the balls you suck. Hey, with your head down.
Hey, with your head down. Hey. All about moving this resonance around. Hey, with your head. Moving it back enough, but then adding enough compression to get a little bit of grit. I've talked about compression transitioning to grit in a lot of other videos. It's this idea that we're lifting something heavy. Lifting something heavy. and feeling out where that point is that it becomes slightly broken up. It's the false chord area of our throat that's providing this compression, but also grit. We can get distortion and grit as we learn to moderate our airflow. And that's what he's doing here. He doesn't sound terribly intense, but he's getting little bits of grit because he's learned how to compress. He's learned how to moderate airflow.
You know that can't be where it's always at. You've all been always there. Your head shaped like a pen. You search through the lights.
Again, you search through the lights. He's not concerned about cracking. He's not concerned about doing things in a way that people come back to him and go, wow, you really nailed that vocal line. And in the process, he's creating something memorable. He's creating something that is expressive. It is way more important to be expressive and carefree with your voice than it is to try to be good. You'd rather not hit pitches correctly and be engaging and expressive and emotional than really try to hit those pitches and be awkward and self-conscious. This is such a perfect example of what I've been talking about on the channel lately.
Jumped in the pie of life that you slice till it's just right. You're so often seen along the west side wheel of the mills that you
West Side! It's like he's a completely different character and different vocalist here. If I'm gonna sing like this and then I'm gonna West Side, I'm gonna lower my larynx, I'm gonna cut my tongue a little bit in the back, I'm kind of gonna yarl a little bit just for a minute. This is made in 1994, so yarling definitely is in style. But he doesn't stay there. It's so dynamic. What we hear and like about these unique recordings is the dynamic nature of how he changes up his sounds. We should be doing this too in our voice. And this study shows you the extremes. A lot of times I'm working with a vocalist where the performances are a bit more refined and I'm taking them to extremes, but he's doing that for us, which is so healthy for us to internalize some of these things.
to get around the coaxing of the slums. It's always made you feel the best. You always
It's always made you feel. This bright nature of how he's doing it with that squeezed, compressed feel and sound is allowing him to do those E vowels in a very natural way. The way you feel, as opposed to feel, and having to modify the vowel. Play with that, putting the resonance back, but not swallowing your vowel, still forming the vowel in the front of your face while you place your resonance back. I've covered this a lot in my courses in terms of how to dial this in more precisely. But this is important if we want to be able to sing those challenging vowels high.
less and less of the casual forces that lead you away from the nest. I know your face.
Listen to that. I know your face. Doesn't care. He's just going after it. We need more of this in modern music, and we need more of this in our own risk-taking thresholds.
It's all out of place. I know your face.
Listen to his agility, though. I know your face. If he wasn't so carefree, he wouldn't have the freedom to do those lines. And you can hear the agility, you can hear this unintentional accuracy out of that line. It's a great line.
I
know your face. I'm not getting the run exactly right, but that's not really the point either. He wouldn't get it exactly right. He wouldn't do it the same way twice. What a different tone than the R that he was doing earlier. Place R. All right, now this one, Running Away Into You, really, really trippy things he's doing with pitch from a production standpoint. It's pretty nutty, but interesting and inspiring.
Up and down through water, live where you're poor, between stars. Sighing, babies go to work.
And then blending his normal voice under this strange pitch thing. We're going to get into how you can manipulate in the DAW, manipulate your voice in similar ways here in a minute, but I want to listen on just a little more.
Down low if the sun can melt like snow.
So what you hear in this over and over again is these different sections that have been sampled, these little loops that have been cut out. And then, again, there's lots of ways to implement this in the DAW or with a keyboard controller. But we have this and we put it on play and loop, and then we manipulate the pitch with what sounds like some sort of manual apparatus. In other words, they're not necessarily drawing in calculated things, although you could do that. You could draw it in and have it still feel random. But it really sounds like they've got it sampled in, and then they're moving a knob around arbitrarily. And I love the way they're doing the layers with it. Notice how it sped up there as the pitch went up, but some of them it speeds up independently of how the pitch works. So they're doing several different things with this pitch manipulation. Now they've made it into another instrument. Let's experiment with some of this craziness in simple ways. And experimenting like this in this context will probably unlock something that's a little bit more mild with some of the other things that you want to do with your own songs. Great to be able to experiment like this, though, with relatively little equipment. Running away into you. Good enough. So the first thing that we could try is just taking a portion of this, and we're going to loop it. Then we're going to load a very simple pitch shift plugin. Now I can create the mix. So I have the original in there. I can take it out. The reason I'm using a pedal, it sounds more, we're not dividing by notes here, right? So there's... It's this linear sort of thing that's happening. And this being done in 1994... there's a lot of really sophisticated auto-tune sorts of things you could do nowadays that would do some of what he did. But back then, it sounds more like this, running it through a whammy pedal, running it through some sort of real basic pitch thing that isn't it doesn't divide things by notes, and it allows you to just sort of take a knob and play with it. And so if we take this same sort of thing and we put it on our other track that doesn't have it repeating, like this. Running away into you. You hear that free sound that you hear at the beginning. Running away into you. And if you wanted to draw something in like that, we could automate running away into you. And then add other neat effects. So I could come up here and maybe I didn't like that curve quite that way. You know, we wanted to do it like that. Go down a little bit. Way into you. Okay, and then add, we'll just go ahead and add some delay. I'm using guitar effects here. And I have a feeling that Frusciante had an affinity for using guitar effects on voice as well. Way into you. Let's increase the time. Way into you. We do. We get these trippy. His voice is like a guitar extension sort of thing, which makes a lot of sense. Running away into you. Let's go back to our other example here, and we can actually speed up this loop. So even though I sung it like this, we can commit to that loop, and then we can compress the time. So we have this kind of thing going on. See how it's faster? We could start there. We could create some interesting breaks here and speed this up like this. Crossfade in between. And then we could do something really neat here. Let's bring the pitch up where this one leaves off. And put some delay on this one. Swell it in. Running away into you. So this kind of seemingly arbitrary experimentation, using very simple tools and figuring out how you can musically create a bunch of different accidents that then end up working really well. You notice that the pitch, run away into you, we have this octave thing going on. So as my pitch went up, I automated that pitch up, I went back to an octave above where I started in the beginning. So the whole compartment that I created made a lot of sense, even though there was a lot of arbitrary things going on. And you hear that all over his track too. There's this, and then it goes underneath other things, and so fun. Pull out some guitar effects on your DAW. Pull out some pitch effects. Sing a line, experiment with how you can morph your voice. Like I said, there's a lot of very current tools like, Melodyne and Auto-Tune where you can do stuff like this in really crazy ways, but it doesn't sound as raw and maybe not quite as in the vibe as what he's doing in his 1994 album. Hopefully you enjoyed this strange video. Stay tuned for more John Frusciante videos in the future. Again, if you'd like more help with your voice, click that link below and join my free course. We'll see you for more.